Good morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks, Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. Actually, National Streaming Sports. I keep doing that. I think we ought to be back to plug in National Streaming Sports because we are going to do some work of reviving the brand. And I want to welcome in my co-host, Hall of Fame boxing writer and sports guru, Jack Hirsch. How are you, Jack?
Hey, good, Keith.
I hope you got some rest because we got another World Series game tonight. So, we could go till 4, 5, 6 a.m.
Well, you're going to stay up for another 18-inning game. I mean, did you learn your lesson, Keith? I mean, I didn't stay up for the whole game, but you did. 18 innings. So, yeah, you're going to torture yourself again if it happens.
I will, because this is the way I remember and love baseball. I love these games, and I think what they ought to do is bring in Brad Paisley, because I don't know if you read this story, but Brad Paisley has sung the national anthem for both World Series games that went 18 innings in his career. So he's an omen. But I stayed up. You think because I was retired, it wasn't a big deal, but I did have to play golf at 9 a.m. the next morning, and it was not a lot of fun early on, I can tell you, but we persevered. This has been a fun series, I think. Not always the best played series, but a lot of weird stuff going on. Game 3 to me is a classic. Ohtani on base 9 times, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and they said, "I'm not pitching to you anymore," and just walked him every time he got up. Yamamoto has been lights out with 2 complete games. He was warmed and kind of come in that game if it went to the 19th inning. Freddie Freeman made sure that didn't happen. I've had a lot of fun watching this series, and it's kind of, quite frankly, rejuvenated my excitement for the World Series in baseball a little bit, because I was not pumped up for this series on Friday night, last Friday, a week ago.
And I wasn't psyched for this series at all. Quite honestly, I thought the Dodgers would win without a fuss. I mean, I was high on the Dodgers all year to repeat as World Series champions. Even though they had a subpar year by what was expected of them, they were in control of their division all year long. They won their division, breezed through the playoffs. They beat the Cincinnati Reds 2 games straight. Then they beat a very good Philly team 3 games to 1. And then they swept the Brewers 4-0 there. And then they're playing the Toronto Blue Jays. So they lose opening game, okay. They come back, they win the second game. But the way the Dodgers won the 3rd game in 18 innings, I'm thinking this series is basically over. Because if Toronto had any shot at winning this series, they needed to grab that game. And that had to be demoralizing. And Toronto comes back and wins games 4 and 5 decisively. Dodgers just aren't hitting. They're just not hitting. It's that simple. We could analyze everything all we want.
Yeah.
But that's what it comes down to. And now they're 1 game away from elimination, and the bats better wake up.
The pitching has been good, and I like well-pitched games. So if we get a lack of hitting, I can live with it. And good morning to Danny. Danny was at the game, and he and I were chatting back and forth till his phone died around the 16th inning. And John Gonzalez from the Sports Authorities, John did predict this game last Friday on my MLB show to go 6 games, and Toronto would win, and Donnie Baseball would get his ring. So to me, that's still a big deal. I know you think it's not the same. It's not the same as he's playing, but
it's heartwarming. It's heartwarming. Yeah. But let's be honest about it. I mean, Don Mattingly's a bench coach, but when you look at the Toronto Blue Jay bench, is he the one that's standing right next to the manager all the time? You get the feeling he's 3rd in command on the team. You just get that feeling, but I'm sure they all respect Don Mattingly. They like him there.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
They're happy for him to get his ring. He's a good person. I'm sure he's been a help, with the hitters, etc. Is a part of his experience. But let's not get carried away. The story isn't going to be, Don Mattingly gets his ring. Well, we're aware of it. We're happy for him, but it's not quite the same.
Heartwarming is a good word, and that's mine. I mean, that's not everybody's. I'm guessing 90% of the people watching these games don't even know who Don Mattingly is. You and I do, and a lot of our followers do. It's heartwarming for me to see after all these years he gets a chance. And
let's say he's far from getting the ring. He's 1 game away. that game is really going to be hard to win to close it out. And I'm going to tell you, I'm
got
not
Toronto
going to
tonight.
question it after. I'm going to question it now. Toronto's choice of going with their ace in Game 6, Kevin Gosman, I would keep him in reserve for Game 7 because it's such a major psychological factor for a team to have your ace ready for Game 7. Because if Toronto loses tonight, they don't have their ace on the mound for Game 7, and the Dodgers could either start Ohtani, and I know Toronto hit Ohtani in the last game, but if Ohtani has it going, he could be lights out.
I don't think he can start. I think they're talking. I think, and Danny might have a better feel for this than I do. The word I've heard is he will start in the outfield and be available to pitch in the.
They're thinking about it. They're not sure yet. For the simple reason they have to get by Game 6, and anything goes in Game 6. Because let's say it's a 14-inning game. They might throw Ohtani in that game, coming out of the bullpen. I mean, getting him in to pitch an inning or two.
It's more than just pitching.
Throw things out of whack if there was a Game 7.
If he doesn't start the game pitching, and I do not believe he'll start. He just pitched Thursday night. Wednesday night. He's not pitching Saturday. He's not.
With a day's rest, but you could pitch a couple innings.
Well, then you're saying we're pitching a bullpen game, right? And I don't think they're going to do that. I think they'll make him available. You remember, he's got to start in the outfield, or if he pitches, they lose their DH. So they're not hitting. They can't afford to play without a DH.
If it's an extra inning game, everything goes out the window. We saw that in Game 3. Let's say the game's going into the 14th inning by some chance. And they're facing elimination. They're not going to worry about losing their DH. They have to do everything to prevent Toronto from scoring the winning run in extra innings.
Yeah.
So Ohtani would be in a situation like that.
Well, he's a good weapon to have. He's a good weapon to have. Him and Suzuki he didn't pitch great the other night, Ohtani, but he's
John, kudos to you so far. I didn't hear Keith just inform me picking Toronto in 6. I thought the Dodgers were going to sweep. If the Dodgers won in 5, it would have been the same thing as sweeping, basically. But Mookie Betts, the problem could be this with Mookie Betts. Not that he's maybe not hitting. Maybe Mookie Betts, who's been around a long time, is starting to decline a bit. That might be the problem. He's not the same Mookie Betts that's going to be a future Hall of Famer. That might be the problem. And he's never going to be and he might never be the same Mookie Betts again, not through lack of effort. Players do start to age. They do start to lose it at some point. And maybe Mookie Betts now is no more than an average, a slightly above average player, not the Hall of Fame caliber player we've been used to seeing all these years.
Somebody who came up big again the other night in Game 3 and won that game, Freddie Freeman, I mentioned before. I tell you, it kills me every time I see Freddie Freeman in a clutch spot come through, because he seems to come through every time. And that's the guy the Yankees should have signed 4 years ago.
No, the Yankees couldn't have signed him. They couldn't have. He had no interest in going to the Yankees.
I don't believe that.
Off the bat. He didn't want to play in New York. It was obvious. It was very obvious. He went to L.A. He has family in L.A. He just didn't, nothing against New York. He didn't want to play here because they would have had to give him a ridiculous amount of money then. Come on.
Wouldn't have been worth it? The last 4 years.
It's easy to say it would have been worth it now, but it's easy to play with monopoly money, Keith. Come on. I don't want to hear next year. Listen, I don't want to hear next year if Pete Alonso goes to a team like the Red Sox, for example, and he lights it up, hits 45 home runs, 130 RBIs. Oh, the Yankees definitely should have signed him without question. Just they have the money. Just give them the money. Come on, Keith.
Yeah, no, I get it. Listen, it's not my money, so it's easy for me to spend it, so I'm okay with that. Danny, I'm not so sure. You can't. I know this is going to be the spin, right? It's not a marathon. The deferred money's over a period of time. The goal is to win 3 over 10 years. You can't tell me this won't be a disappointment if you don't win this series.
Oh, big disappointment. Ohtani's contract technically was $70 million a year, but with deferred money, it came out to something like a little over $47 million a year. Something about what Juan Soto's getting paid. But Ohtani gets all this deferred money laid on. and he's getting the value of the contracts. They were paying him something like $2 million a year up front in the beginning, I think this year. But Ohtani has such lucrative endorsement deals. He can afford to go the deferred money route. And, he's still the highest paid player in the game. But you had to pay him crazy money. And no other team could go that far unless they could pay deferred money. No one's going to pay him $70 million up front.
I think they're deferring a lot more than what you think. The way I understand, they're deferring about he's getting like $7 million, what I understood this year. So that's a lot more than people.
Well, that's
think.
what I was saying. I thought he was getting less than that, but whatever. But the bulk of it is deferred.
Yeah,
the bulk of it's deferred money because he wanted to play for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's still remaining in Los Angeles, coming over from the Angels. Keith, I used to think, and I still think this way, and I'm sure you do. You're idealistic the way I am to a large degree. You'd love to see a player play his whole career with one team. How nice it is. But I'm going to tell you, I'm starting to get away from that, because you look at all the great legendary athletes who, if they thought along those lines, they would have hurt their own legacy. Peyton Manning, let's say he said, I'm going to stay with the Colts. I'll stay even as a backup to Andrew Luck. He wouldn't won another Super Bowl.
You don't know that.
Denver, they won. Tom Brady, absolutely 100% would not have won another Super Bowl had he stayed with the New England Patriots. The Patriots would have been better than they were without him. I get that. I'm not arguing that point. But they would not have won a Super Bowl, had Tom Brady stayed with them. Right.
The Peyton thing, we don't know that he won.
Look at LeBron James. If he never left the Cleveland Cavaliers to begin with, the odds are, he would not have won an NBA championship, because they couldn't have drafted Kyrie Irving later on. He wouldn't have gotten the championships at Miami, LA. And the same thing with Ohtani. Had he stayed with the Angels, it would have been the same thing, not making the playoffs and so on. It's a good move by him going to the Dodgers.
And a good example of not moving on and never getting a chance might be Mike Trout, as you mentioned, the Angels.
Trout, exactly. A great example, Keith. But Trout wants to be a lifetime Angel, and the Angels reportedly gave him the option. Look, if you want us to trade you, we'll accommodate you. If you want to be with the Angels, and he sees the comfort with the Angels. Look, one of the personalities I don't care a great deal for would be Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller's personality throws me off, but I have so much admiration for him. When he was with the Pacers, he didn't want to go to another team and chase the ring as an old veteran. It wasn't worth it to him if he couldn't win it as an Indiana Pacer. So much respect for him staying with the Pacers and having that attitude. Kudos to Reggie Miller for that.
It's funny, we talked about Don Mattingly earlier, and he's another guy who never got a ring with his team either. He stayed with them the whole time. So
and the year he left, talk about bad timing. They win in 1996. Had he stayed one more year, the Yankees would have allowed him to stay one more year.
Oh, absolutely.
Even as a part-time player. And what's the ironic part? Wade Boggs gets a ring with the Yankees. No one realizes Wade Boggs was a Yankee as long as Reggie Jackson was, for 5 years. We never think of it. We never think of Wade Boggs as being a Yankee. He wasn't the most liked guy, but you got to give credit to a Wade Boggs. He was a Yankee 5 years. He deserves a nice ovation for that if he ever shows up at an old-timers game.
I forget that he was there 5 years, quite frankly. I remember that.
5 years, and was there 96 when they won the championship.
He had a good year that year, platooning with
Charlie. Yeah, got to give credit. He was, if you're a Yankee fan, he was one of us, even though we think of him as a Red Sox. But Keith, you know what? When he went into the Hall of Fame, he went as a Tampa Bay Ray, even though he played for 1 year. So
he caused MLB to change their rulings, I believe. He sold his hat, basically, to the Rays. They said, we'll pay you to use our logo. So
I'll get off this a second. Dave Winfield did the same thing. 10 years.
Yeah.
He was with Padre and the Yankees, I think, for 10 years. and he had a choice which one to go in the Hall of Fame as, but the Padres paid him $1 million if he'd go in as a Padre, and he took the money.
Yeah, I can see him going in as a Padre. It doesn't hurt me. I mean, he played a long time there.
I could see you going into the Hall of Fame as a weekend playbook guy, wearing the banner, me and you, as opposed to your full-time college if they offered you the dough, Keith.
I would definitely go in as a weekend playbook guy for sure. You know what? Again, I won't belabor this point, but it reminds me too that Catfish Hunter wouldn't make a choice. He went in with no logo on his hat. Would you rather see that or not?
Catfish should have gone in as an Oakland Athletic.
Yeah, I think so too. But
it's hard not to go in as a Yankee because you feel your more history. Mike, you've seen the same thing. He had a predicament. Had the Yankees, he pitched for the Orioles a couple of more seasons, but he had a similar career with the Yankees in large part. Had the Yankees won just one World Series with him, okay, then I think he may have gone in as a Yankee.
And he got his only 20-win season in New York with his.
Reggie Jackson went in as a Yankee, even though technically he should have gone in as an Oakland Athletic. But in all fairness, when we think of Reggie Jackson, we remember his exploits a little more as a Yankee than we do as an Oakland Athletic. In all fairness.
And today, MLB is making that choice for the players. They don't let them make it anymore.
Well, Gary Carter, they made the choice, made him go in as a Montreal Expo as opposed as a Met.
I can see that's a problem. I can see that should have been a Met in that case, in my mind.
Well, and I could say if Keith Hernandez ever gets in, I mean, should he go in as a Cardinal or a Met? I think I'd have him go in but he played longer for the Cardinals.
Cardinals fans will say Cardinals.
With the Cardinals and an MVP with the Cardinals. But because he's been a Met broadcaster all this time, I think that has to count for something. He should go in as a Met if he goes
I do too. Quick good morning to Linda. How are you, Linda? Hopefully
Linda, how you doing?
Things are okay out there in Minnesota. Let's catch up on a couple of these comments before we move on.
Minnesota got a new manager, by the way. They got to get things together.
Minnesota, these guys. I was surprised Derek Shelton got another job, but I mean, I guess
I don't get this. You get fired early in the season as a Pittsburgh Pirate manager because you're not doing the job, and another team hires you. Teams. This is a good question too. Should teams usually hire from within? Don't the Twins have someone in their minor league system who's done a great job as a minor league manager who they could eventually promote? How would you feel you're working for a company all this time and there's a big promotion and they bring someone else in? I mean, that would strike me, the wrong way. I just don't get it. If it's a high-powered manager, a great high-powered manager, like the Tigers did years ago with Sparky Anderson, yeah, I get that. That's okay, a high-powered manager. But otherwise, you should promote from within unless you don't like any of the candidates.
It is a little weird. Danny says Keith won't get in the Hall of Fame. I don't think he will either.
If I asked you, Danny, if I said to you, and it's debatable at least, who's the greatest defensive first baseman in baseball history? A lot of people would say Keith Hernandez. That in itself now I think would make him a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I know that. I know that, John, that he was with Baltimore 1 year to stop over.
I'm pretty sure, John, he was traded for Don Baylor and Mike Torres, but that's nitpicking. He did go from Baltimore.
Mike Torres was on the mound for the last out.
He was.
Game. Yeah.
Jack's already in. Keith needs to go.
I'm already in. Yeah. Wow.
Will you stop, Rick? I appreciate it.
Keith will go in the observer category.
He wants me to get back into interviewing guys, and it's just so hard to chase these guys around. I can't. I'm just Michael Dighton. I did say good morning to Ralph. Good morning. Who's that?
What's his name? Donnie Walsh with Reggie Miller. I give Donnie Walsh just very quickly. I don't mean to change the topic. So much credit for the guts he showed when he drafted Reggie Miller. Everyone in Indiana wanted the Pacers to draft their hero, Steve Alford, who played for Bobby Knight at Indiana University. And he had the guts to draft Reggie Miller instead. And Reggie Miller's turned out to be the greatest Pacer in team history.
Not the best
that
Miller.
showed you the guts of Donnie Walsh in the selection, how great it was.
Danny gives you credit for your call on Reggie Miller.
That's
And
his sister Cheryl.
he might be the best pacer. He may not be the best Miller, though. That's the interesting part. So, good call, Danny. Listen, so it's 3-2. You still got to. Are you the Dodgers? Dodgers are not done. They got Yamamoto tonight, who's pitched lights out. And then they're going to get whatever you get in Game 7. Listen, the Dodgers could still win, and I still think the Dodgers win this series.
I still think so too, but I'm going to be honest. There's tremendous doubt now. Anytime a team is one game away from elimination and they're playing in Toronto, I mean, I'm no longer confident that the Dodgers are going to win the series. If they do in the next two, I'm not going to say, "Oh, I felt all along they were going to do it."
Let me clear up.
It's one game at a time. I mean, Yamamoto's pitching this game. He's got to get him to his 7th game. Once in his 7th game, everything goes. But
that's where I was going. I will say I'm pretty confident there'll be a Game 7. Yamamoto has just been. There's been some great stories in this series. Yeah, Ohtani in Game 3 and Savage, excuse me, for Toronto has been unbelievable. And also Yamamoto has been unbelievable, along with some other stories. There's just some great stories in this series, and I've really enjoyed it. And I'll go on my MLB show today before we get off baseball and deal with mea culpa, because, geez, I was like Debbie Downer last week because I just couldn't get into the start of this series. And I couldn't understand why I don't feel the same way about World Series starting as I did 20 years ago. But this is really – and a game, quite frankly, Game 3 really, really – was a game that moved me. Yamamoto's game too, but some other things have happened here that have me pumped up again.
Let me tell you what I've noticed more and more this series, and I didn't realize the extent of it. The leadership that Vlad Guerrero has shown. We know he's a great player, but he's shown up. I mean, at the end of Game 3, he was even saying they went into the locker room and everyone was down with the Blue Jays losing the 18-inning game, and he picked everyone up. Come on, guys. It's best 4 out of 7. And he picked it all up. And it's remarkable the way the Blue Jays bounced back. When the Blue Jays lost Game 3, I mean, you couldn't be confident they were going to bounce back. You just couldn't be confident. You would hope they would get back to Toronto even down 3-2. So they'd be home to have some type of chance.
Vlad is a great leader.
They win the next 2 games the way they did. It has to be the Dodgers have to be shocked. Now, Dave Rabbits and the Dodgers reportedly were giving an image of being loose. Dave Rabbits was racing one of the players on the bases, and the fastest guy, but Dave Rabbits was given a big head start, and then he fell down flat on his face. The guys were laughing. Stuff like that is good. Because I think the best thing for the Dodgers is to be as loose as you can be. But at the same time, you've got to embrace the pressure. If you show up and you're the Dodgers and you say, there's no pressure, we're going to play loose, then it's over. You're losing. You've got to embrace the pressure.
And Vlad, you know what? I am very impressed with the way Vlad has grown as a player, not just on the field, but as a leader. As a leader, it's very impressive. I thought he was I felt like, and again, I'm not there day in and day out in Toronto, obviously, but I didn't feel like he was a team player. He felt like a selfish young player when he was younger, let his body go, and I thought he'd eat himself out of the league. Great player. He's the first guy to greet guys after they do something well. The hug he gave to Savage the other night was I just love the way he interacts with his teammates, and he's really grown as a player. Great story.
He gives them the jacket when they hit a homer, the first one for them to win the dugout. And he also, before the season, he showed he wanted to be a Blue Jay. Now, he held out for big money. He got $500 million.
Well, he should get it.
Also, had Vlad Guerrero gone free agent, he would have done better than that. And he knew that before the season. He knew what the market was. He said all along, I don't have to get Ohtani money like, I don't have to get what Soto got, the 700 million area, whatever. But he was getting about 35 million a year. Big, great money. The Blue Jays, finally kind of gave in to him, but he didn't make the amount so crazy. He showed he didn't want to be a free agent, that he was going to get the money he wanted. But he could have gotten more on the open market, and I think he knew that. But yeah, he showed he wanted to be a Blue Jay, and the team was willing to meet him halfway. That's nice. 1 year away from free agency.
They were pretty close to breaking this team up, so it's a pretty good thing they didn't. And Danny, I'm going to save this comment for the next time you tell me I'm way too hard on my team. You're giving up on them here, down 3-2. They can win this.
Take it away. No way, Dodgers have way too many.
He doesn't think they're going to win.
Yeah. Listen, one game in baseball, anyone could beat anyone. Momentum. And the most important play on the field is the pitcher. And if you have Yamamoto going, and he's at the top of his game, the Dodgers might not have to hit too much.
Yeah,
they could win a 2-1 type game. I listen. All of a sudden, don't tell me the Dodgers can't hit. The Dodgers' weakness has been their bullpen. I know it came through in Game 3, as did Toronto's, but Dodgers just haven't been hitting. A team that hasn't been hitting all of a sudden could wake up and start hitting, or they could continue, or this drought could continue the way it has.
I'm excited for tonight's game. I think it'll be a really good game, and if you like 2-1 baseball, you might see it tonight. So I like it. Moving on from the exciting World Series to the less exciting news of the NFL last night. The Dolphins and Ravens played last night, I guess, because the league's schedule says they had to. But the big story to me is Lamar Jackson is back, and his Raven team. I know they're playing the Dolphins. Their schedule's pretty soft. We've talked about it a couple times on this show. And I saw last night they were showing some computer, what do they call?
Simulations.
Yes, simulations. And every one of them, they're the favorite to win the division over a team that's 2 games ahead of them.
A game and a half now.
A game and a half now, right? But they look like a team that will compete and maybe be dangerous at the end of the season. I'm still worried about their defense. They played good last night, but Miami was just like, that's atrocious. Their offense is just a joke right now.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl at the start of the year. And I never went away from that prediction. But when they got to 1-5, I was 1 game away from going off the prediction. And the one thing I knew that was keeping the Ravens alive was a pathetic division in which the Steelers, who are 4-3 and don't have a good team, are on top. So they're very catchable. The Bengals are a mess without Joe Burrow now, and the Cleveland Browns are no threat. Okay? So this is a marathon, and I know the Ravens fell far behind, but the lead runners, I'm giving an analogy with the New York City Marathon this Sunday, we're going to hit a wall and slow down, and you're going to reel them in. And they beat the Chicago Bears last week. And now Lamar Jackson, is returning his first game back, looking good. They had the bye week. The bye week helped them a lot before the bad game. They were 1-5. And they got it together. The last 3 games, the Raven defense, which has been a disaster, has played well. And when you play well 3 games in a row, I'd like to think your problem, if it's not solved, is under control. So it's under control. The defense should get better as the year goes along. The whole team should be nothing but better. Lamar Jackson throws 4 touchdown passes. Maybe people are going to start realizing this guy is more than just a runner. He's an effective pocket passer. He doesn't have to run to be effective. He hardly ran yesterday, but because Lamar Jackson is such a great running quarterback, such a threat to take off, people look at him differently than they should.
Well, part of that is, and I fall into this group that I'm going to talk about, because when he gets on the big stage in the playoffs, he does not perform well in the pocket, and his first instinct is to take off, and he's not been effective or accurate in as a pocket passer in those biggest games in the playoffs, and he needs to perform there, I think, for people to see what you see. These games are great. He plays like this all year long. I agree. He's a great player. But you got to show up in the playoffs to really get to that next level, in my mind.
It reminds me of Aaron Judge with the playoffs. I mean, Judge broke through this year. Even though the Yankees got eliminated, he had a great postseason. And Jackson will have that breakthrough at some point.
Might be this year. Who knows?
I'm not sure. Yeah, could be this. Yeah, look, other quarterbacks haven't broken through and gotten, I mean, I mentioned Joe Burrow a little while ago. He hasn't won a Super Bowl, but he got to one. Josh Allen has never gotten to a Super Bowl. I mean, the other, top of the line quarterbacks, it's kind of hard to get there.
There's a difference. There's two different things, though. Josh Allen has not played badly in the playoffs and cost his team games. His defense has, and other factors have. He's played great. That one game, that championship game in Kansas City, I think it was a championship game.
Yeah.
He threw 4 or 5 touchdown passes, played great. And he has not had a stinker that I can think of. A real stinker. Lamar Jackson has come up small year after year. That's what I'm talking about. It's not just not advancing. It's the way you play as well. And at the most important position, obviously.
He's got to come up bigger. No question about that. No question about that. I think that's just one of those things. I think he'll break this playoff drought, at some point. I think it's going to be this year, but we'll see.
I think we all agree that the Ravens are going to win this division. It seems to be the consensus, at least around this show. The Dolphins, on the other hand, I listened to, and I don't know, Al Michaels, and I like Al Michaels. I like Kirk Herbstreit a lot. But all they talked about last night was the Dolphins are going to ride this out. They're not going to make trades at the deadline. McDaniel's going to make it through the year. I saw a team on several plays last night that looked like they have quit on their coach, and the fans jeered this team and McDaniel all through the game. I don't know how, and again, I'm not always in favor of firing guys, as Danny and I have talked about, but when it gets this toxic, or what appears to be this toxic, how long do you ride it with this guy and just keep alienating the fans? Can you do that week after week for another 8 weeks?
I mean, what are you going to accomplish firing him this season? Are you going to give the job to one of the coordinators as the interim coach? Because they haven't been that good on both sides of the ball. They've been worse on the offensive side of the ball than they have on the defensive side.
Yeah.
Nothing gets solved. Let Mike McDaniel coach the year out. See what the team does the rest of the year. I know they're at their lowest point right now. They have a bye week. If he's going to get fired, Keith, the time to fire him, if he's going to get fired during the season, would be during the bye week, because it gives the interim coach a little extra time to get organized the next game. And then they play a game overseas. Let Mike McDaniel play it out. Also, we do not know the owner's relationship with him. Maybe the owner likes Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel has had past success with the Dolphins. Remember, he was the hottest new coach, a couple of years, 3 years ago. The media loved him.
They've gotten progressively worse every year.
But he coached them to the playoffs. Let's not forget that.
So what's the difference? So would you say Brian Daboll should keep his job as well?
Brian Daboll never coached the Giants. Brian Daboll.
They've had a very similar.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Brian Daboll did with Daniel Jones.
In their first year,
the 1 year, but people, because the Giants got off to a 6-1 start, they had the balls bounce their way, and then under Brian Daboll, they went 3-6-1 the last 10 games of the season, and they got into the playoffs as a wild card, and then they won a game against the Vikings. Daniel Jones performed wonderfully in that game, and then the next game that they lost to the Eagles, Daniel Jones is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah. Speaking of the trade deadline, I guess, Rick, I've known this number for quite a while. They've had this money available for a long time, the Patriots. And they're not inclined to spend it. Obviously, they would have already spent it.
Does this money carry over into next year? What could help the Pats make moves?
Well, the cap is the cap. You don't get that over the cap next year.
Yeah, my feeling is with New England. I mean, you absolutely don't give up on this year. You look right now like they have an excellent chance to get to the playoffs, if not win the division as a wild card, just play decent the rest of the year. But if I'm New England and I'm thinking winning the Super Bowl, it's not happening this year. It's just not happening. But maybe they can build something and use the cap really good for next year. Hello, Michael.
Yeah. The thing to remember, Rick and everybody else, just because there's $56 million there, but Robert Kraft has never been one to just throw his money around. Well, 1 year Bill Belichick went out of spending spree. They don't pay people.
But the big name is Trey Hendrickson, who they're thinking could make an impact. But if you saw Trey Hendrickson limp off the field against
31 years old
in the Bengals last game, he was hurt.
Yeah.
And and he's like 31.
No.
I don't know how much that he would really help. I mean, not for what he'd have to get paid. And and the Bengals would want some nice draft compensation. I mean, what would I give for Trey Hendrickson at this point in the season? A 4th-round draft pick? Yeah, sure. If I'm okay with the finances.
I don't think he makes this defense that much better. I really don't at this point in his career. And again, if he's not making me better for the stretch run, I'm not making a trade. Why would I do it? That's just silly. So I'm not sure the Patriots will do a lot other than what you've seen so far, which is a little cosmetic stuff. Michael, how are you? My friend over in the UK. New England agree. Build on top for the next few years. Agree.
And see what happens this year. You could be rebuilding or rebooting or whatever and still have a goal to win this year.
Yeah.
But I know if you're a New England Patriot fan like you are, Keith, I mean, just the idea you make the playoffs, you could lose 100-0 in the playoff game, and you're going to say, this was a very successful season. I'm very happy with it. Not 100-0. No, just getting there is great. And I'm not talking moral victories.
Making the playoffs.
I don't mean anything like that. Just making the playoffs this year would have, to me, way exceeded expectations.
The problem is, and you're 100% right. The problem is, and I think we talked about this maybe even on the last show, perception changes as you go forward, right? So you get to the playoffs with 11 wins, maybe even 12. This team, the schedule, as Danny says, is pretty favorable on the way out if they continue to play as they are. Now your expectations are higher, and you go out and you get beat in the playoffs, and you're like, oh, man, what a wasted season. It's not.
No, not at all. Not for the Patriots. For other teams, the Buffalo Bills, for example, anything short of at least getting to the Super Bowl, the year's been a disappointment. There's no way of getting around it. They've got to get to the Super Bowl and, win the Super Bowl, but at least get to the Super Bowl.
100%.
And the same thing with the Ravens. Anything short of the Super Bowl. Same thing with the Chiefs. Anything short of the Super Bowl. The Chargers, if they make a run at the Super Bowl, get eliminated, it's a good year. They've taken an additional step. Yeah, I would look at it that way. Bengals, I shouldn't even be mentioning them. I mean, losing to the Jets. They might be a sub 500 team this year.
And Danny, I'm sorry, Michael, the Patriots, maybe you misquoted on maybe they're backup quarterback. If the backup quarterback's going to play, we're not going to win anyway. So that's not a huge deal to me. Offensive line, they could definitely use an upgrade on both sides of the line. They could use some depth and depth maybe in the secondary as well. So, and
Tommy DeVito and Joshua Dobbs are the other 2 quarterbacks. Who's their number 2? Is it DeVito or Dobbs?
It's Dobbs. It's Dobbs right now, but the team has thought that at some point by the end of the year, DeVito might be the backup.
DeVito did win 3 games with the Giants, and the Giants didn't want to move on from DeVito. They wanted him to be a backup. And if DeVito ever gets cut by New England and DeBala is still the coach of the Giants, I think he would get back there.
I agree.
Moral victory is extremely rare.
You've gotten pretty close.
I don't want to oversee. You know what I don't like? It was just mentioned now. My friend mentioned it yesterday. Don't start giving teams wins based on the schedule. I know I sometimes say a schedule looks favorable to a team. We don't know how that team is going to be at the time you're playing them. They might be a completely different team. They might be much better. Beating them might be much harder at that point of the year. It might be much easier. Look at the Patriots. If they were going to play the Las Vegas Raiders now, the Patriots would be a solid favorite if they were going to play them in New England. Yet they lost to them opening game.
Well, to your point, again, I said best case scenario this year, I could see 9 wins and contending. But of those 9 wins, because I predicted them before the season, 2 of them they've already lost to, the Steelers and the Raiders. So again, they won games you didn't think they were going to win because teams are worse than they were. expected to be. So good opinion. Games this week, we got some Bills and Chiefs is probably the big game of the weekend, but there's others. Vikings maybe their last gasp this year if they going against the Lions and McCarthy back. Colts and Steelers, interesting. Not Ravens. Broncos and Texans, Seattle and Washington. There's some interesting games, not a ton of them.
Virtually all games are interesting at this point of the year.
I'm looking at good matchups, though, right? I'm looking at really good matchups.
Everything is nearly a decent matchup for the most part.
Also the Falcons and Packers in there, because the Falcons are also on life support a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, just the one game that's most intriguing, the game of the week is obviously Kansas City at Buffalo.
Yep.
And I don't know who to pick in that game, Keith. I mean, I could take a coin and flip it and let that be my decision.
I like Buffalo.
I give a tiny, and underline the word tiny, edge to Kansas City, even though they're Buffalo, because playing on the road doesn't bother the Chiefs. They can win on the road. It just doesn't bother them being on the road. And I think the Bills need that game more than Kansas City for their mindset, a little more. And I know the Bills, after losing 2 in a row, then they had the bye week and they came back, and they destroyed the Carolina Panthers to supposedly show they've got their mojo back. But the way the Chiefs seem to be rounding into form, that's the thing about it.
Playing really good football and getting healthy and getting their ne'er-do-wells back.
Their mojo back. They're kind of reminding us that why they've been to the Super Bowl so many years, why they're this era's NFL dynasty, a closest thing to a dynasty. They're reminding us of it this year. That look, even though we lost the Super Bowl badly, we still got to the Super Bowl. We haven't lost anything.
I remember having these conversations year after year for the last 5 years. It seems like when they get off to a slow start, or they're not covering spreads and winning by 4 touchdowns, the Chiefs are done. The Chiefs are done. And when they do play well, the referees stop. Everybody's got to stop. This is a really good football team. That's why they win games. That's why they're in contention every year. They got the best coach in the league. They got one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and they just know how to win. That's why they're good. Forget the referees. Just stop with that nonsense.
I don't go for that. That's nonsense. Look, but it does happen in any sport. Once in a while, an elite player, superstar player, gets the benefit of the call, but also sometimes you get an official who leans over backwards the other way because they don't show favoritism.
Listen, that doesn't mean there are bad calls. There's bad calls everywhere, though. I mean, just look around the league. It's not just Kansas City. It wasn't just the Patriots. It's whoever wins, right? They can never just be good for the sake of the fact that they're really good. There's got to be factors. They cheat. They got the referees. The league wants them to win. Just stop.
It's going to be a great game, Kansas City at Buffalo.
I agree.
And there's a good chance they'll meet, a reasonable chance, I should say, they're going to meet up again in the playoffs.
I think there's some, like you said, there are some good games, and there are some must-win games. Like I think the Vikings and J.J. McCarthy have got to find a way to beat the Lions, or their season's over.
Now, is J.J. McCarthy starting, actually? He was the third option last weekend.
Again, if somebody can tell me I'm wrong, I do believe if they're
he's
starting.
In a terrible spot because he's basically a rookie for the most part, being hurt last year, and he hasn't gotten a lot of playing time. And to go into Detroit, because if one team seems to have it all together now, or getting it together, it's the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
And for him to go into Detroit and expect J.J. McCarthy to beat the Lions there, that is a tall order, very tall order.
And Rick, thank you, by the way. They do have maybe the best defensive coordinator in football. I did leave out Spagnuolo, so the Chiefs have got a lot going for them. That's why they're winning. What other games? Any other games that you feel are really important this week? They're all important, I understand. Give me a couple.
Well, you're talking about really, really important. I mean, that have implications. The Seattle Seahawks at the Washington Commanders. It might not seem to be such a high-profile game, but if the Commanders lose this game,
they're pretty done.
I mean, they're on the verge of having a towel thrown in. They're not going to bounce back and win the division. It looks like the Eagles have a stranglehold on the NFC East. But for the Commanders to show that they're any type of Super Bowl contender, this is about it. They seem to be running out of chances. Their defense hasn't performed well this year, and Seattle, are they for real?
Playing good football, good
they
defense.
play good football, but I don't think they're that good of a team. So
Yeah.
the game, has those type of implications involved.
I think the Texans are in the same kind of situation against the Broncos at home. They need a win to stay in this wild card race.
And that's a very even game. I'd like the Texans to maybe make a run at the Colts before the year's over. I know they're what are they, 3 games back at the moment?
I think so.
Something like that. And because Indianapolis, everything's went right for them this year for the most part. And for the Texans, they got off to such a bad start. But the last couple of games, their offense has been better. They've been protecting for C.J. Stroud better. And more importantly, or just as importantly, their defense is finally showing up big time as an elite unit. And if their defense could continue playing this way the rest of the year, the wins are going to start piling up, even though they've won their last 2. But they're playing at home against the Broncos. If the Texans stumble and lose and Indianapolis wins this weekend, the Texans are in a massive hole, and being a wild card team would even seem to be a reach, at this point. So I don't want to say a must win for the Texans, but they better win this game because Indianapolis is playing at Pittsburgh. I don't like this Pittsburgh Steelers team, Keith.
I don't either.
I don't like them. Their strength was their defense, and yet their defense has been terrible this year. Aaron Rodgers has played well. He hasn't played great, but he's played well. If I had to grade Aaron Rodgers' performance this year, I'm a professor grading these quarterbacks. I give Aaron a B. He's done well. You've done well, Aaron. You get
well enough to get a B, yes.
You've worked well enough. You've gotten a B. You haven't been sensational, but you've been good. And, DK Metcalf has been good. The rest of the offense has been okay, but the defense has been dreadful.
The defense isn't good enough to carry a B quarterback. That's the bottom line here in my mind. I think this team is going to have a tough second half.
Everyone is focusing on the Steelers defense. That's what's going to make this an interesting game because, Daniel Jones shows up with Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, Michael Pittman. They've got all these weapons on offense for Daniel Jones. They've been blocking for him. Let's see the defense show up. If they can contain the Indianapolis Colts offense and win this game, it'll show us something about the Steelers that, they still have control of the division. And, and it's going to be in their hands to an extent because I'm going to tell you, if they peek over their shoulder, who's coming right at them. The Baltimore Ravens. They're going to have a hard time holding the Ravens off.
They have 2 games with the Ravens?
They're only going to be a game ahead of the Ravens.
Don't they have 2 games with the Ravens yet, too, or did they play them already? I think they have 2 games with them.
Yeah, well, and it's a long enough season. I could see the Ravens going on a run, winning 5 of their next 6, for example. You don't see that with the Steelers.
No, the Ravens' schedule's very favorable. I can't seem to quite get to the Steelers' schedule. I wanted to see if they play the Ravens twice. I think they do. But it's going to be fun.
I don't know about favorable, Keith, because at the end of the year, like I said, we don't know how good these teams are going to be. Some of the weaker teams can finally show up. Even my Jets, okay?
Yeah.
Who look like an easy out. A team sees them on the schedule. Like the Bengals. You mean to tell me when they saw the Jets on their schedule, they weren't confident, okay, we're going to win this game, then we're going to do something else? Absolutely. They looked at it as a win beforehand. I know you got to play the game and no one's going to admit it, But still, you never know how a team is going to show up who you're playing.
So it's going to be a fun second half, and it might be something that, it'll definitely be something we have to keep an eye on. Let's pivot to college football before we run out of time. There's a couple of stories to talk about before we do our picks. The LSU story just keeps getting messier and messier. The governor's involved now, and the AD got fired yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I don't like to say someone should have gotten fired, but the AD made some terrible moves with
he's buried 2 universities now, Texas A&M with Jimbo Fisher, and now LSU. But the governor needs
who authorizes the AD to guarantee these massive, like 10-year contracts
or the university
contracts? Extended Jimbo Fisher, right? And then
he ended up paying him $75 million.
A 10-year deal. A 10-year deal. Who are you gonna award a 10-year deal to? I mean, if you get a young version of Vince Lombardi, okay. You get a young version of Nick Saban, okay. If they're going to bring in a lot of revenue to the university, give them a 10-year deal. But Brian Kelly?
The last 2 coaches are getting roughly $130 million. The last 2 coaches he hired, $130 million not to coach. Great job. And so he should get fired. But can the governor stay out of, I understand it's a state university, but he goes on, he has a big press conference. He talks about how, he throws out, as you said earlier, Trump should pick the next. He was being facetious, I know, but
next coach,
he shouldn't pick the next coach. The governor shouldn't be involved in picking the coach. I don't know that the board of supervisors should be in charge of hiring a coach. They should have the last say, but you need an AD who can find the right guy and not just go get the biggest name. And the governor should have better things to do, by the way. And don't sit there saying things that aren't true, because the taxpayers in Louisiana are not paying this $53 million off to Brian Kelly. Not even a little bit. It's out of the athletic budget, and it's going to come from alumni who agreed to pay this in the first place. That's the guys, by the way, who are guaranteeing all this money, right? It's the alumni, the people. It's not even the president of universities that sign off on this stuff. It's the alumni. They say, yeah, if it goes bad, we'll pay it off. So
yeah, but how much of a difference is it between top coaches who you get? Like to chase after Brian Kelly, if LSU didn't get Brian Kelly, there were enough other good coaches out there who they wouldn't have to give a 10-year deal to. I mean, it's very rare that a coach in itself is so dynamic and so great that you gotta pull out all the stops to sign him. I mean, that's what I don't get. Brian Kelly, we're talking about a good coach, with a good background beforehand, but he's not so elite where you're going to pay him like he's a superstar, player. It's not like Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers willing to give him anything other teams willing to. I don't get it. You mean to tell me they couldn't do all these universities were paying coaches this big money, like Nebraska, I'm sure you're going to mention. They just extended Matt Rule.
Matt Rule extended, yep.
Matt Rule's such a great coach that they have to go out of their way and give him anything he wants. There are a number of other coaches out there who could do a similar job with Nebraska.
His buyout went up to $15 million from $5 million to Matt Rule did in this deal, and this is all to keep him from considering going to Penn State. So Penn State. In the other kind of big story, their list of candidates at the top of it was Rule and Cignetti, and they both signed contracts extensions, and they're out of the running. So they're going to end up probably doing something stupid and overpaying some guy who is not going to be best for this program. While there's guys at the FCS level or and not even talking about coordinators, there's guys in some of the Group of Five teams that are really good coaches. Jeff Monken up in Army doesn't get a chance to pitch to move into the big time, if you will. Maybe he's happy at Army. I know he's interviewed at Tennessee and a few other places, but Jeff Monken, and they're going to say it's a type of football he plays. He's a good football coach, and he would be able to. I guarantee you, Jeff Monken could win on the Power 4 level.
You know who's probably available? He doesn't have that college background. Eric Mangini, he does this work as a Fox Sports analyst.
Yeah.
He obviously knows the game very well from the coaching perspective. Belichick's assistant for years at New England and the Jet head coach. Then later he went to the Browns as the head coach and Niners as a coordinator. I think he could work well, in the college program.
Agreed. So it's going to be it's an interesting card. Well, we had another game. We had a bunch of games last week. Actually, Tulane loses, which is a big loss for them in the Group of 5 race. But on the FCS level, which we just mentioned, Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson faced off last night. Michael Vick, who I know is going to raise the ire of Danny Fuller, getting some heat at Norfolk State. He's only won one game, and he loses last night to Delaware State and Deshaun Jackson. So interesting matchup of coaches who don't seem to be going anywhere.
I didn't see the game. They started earlier before the Raven Dolphin game.
Yeah.
So I didn't see any of the game. It was a close game, 27-20. Was it a well-played game? If it was a well-played game, the teams were coached well, then, kudos to both guys if that wasn't the case.
And Danny hates all things Michael Vick for probably good reasons. But the best nickname is the best nickname for
I'm just saying Penn State. He might be a good fit for Penn State. Actually,
it's going to be a reach for Mangini to get a big job.
Yeah, just an idea. Let's go with our college picks, Keith.
Yeah, real quick, let's just throw out a couple of matchups this week that are playing. We'll go to our picks. Some big games this week. Cincinnati goes to Utah. Cincinnati, a big surprise. A game day will be out there for that game. Not that one, but Texas. Where are they? Texas and Vanderbilt in Texas this week. That's a big game. Georgia and Florida in the largest outdoor cocktail party. Florida's got some talent. That could be an upset. And Miami should watch out. They got to travel to SMU, they lost last week to Wake Forest, but it's not a bad football team, and Miami can't fall asleep like they did 2 weeks ago. With that, let me recap our picks from last week. Interesting. Jack had 2 losses on his favorites, but he gets 2 points on his dog, so you're now at 13-17. And I actually, for the first time this year, pull ahead because my dog won and a favorite won. I had one loser. So I go to 14-15, a half game ahead. Well, actually, I got 2 game lead in the loss column. So
I am the opposite. I believe in the win column.
The win column, you're a half game behind. So, and that's what will matter at the end. So what are your picks this week?
Yeah, you mentioned Miami's been the biggest 6-1 disappointing team, if there's such thing this season.
Yeah.
People think they underachieved, but they're 6-1. I think they'll put it all together against SMU, even though Miami's on the road. Now I'm going to take Miami, giving the 11.5 points.
You got it.
SMU. I'm going to take Michigan at home, giving a whooping 21.5 points to Purdue. Purdue's been awful this year, losing 6 of their games.
Yeah,
they've been absolutely awful, and I don't see them turning it around, this week. And then Nebraska with, Matt Rule signing a new deal. They're happy there. They're getting better. Being at home, I'm going to take Nebraska with the 6.5 points against a USC team who seems to be getting better as the year goes along.
That's a game I looked at a lot, and it's a confounding to me because both these teams could play great one day and horrible the next. So I had to stay away from it, but that's an interesting pick. Danny, I'm staying away from Vanderbilt this week, to your comment there. I think Texas wins that game at home. But I'm not. Hang on one second. All of a sudden, my phone just started.
Right.
All right.
Before you give your picks, Keith, right before you give your picks, I just want to tell our listeners we're going to be on tape delay on Monday's show. Go ahead.
I'm going to go live. We're going to go live at 6:10. Danny, if you want to get to 3 o'clock in the morning, we'll go live at 6:10, but then I'll replay it again at 8 o'clock.
Okay. I learned all this from you.
To come in.
The latest.
If anybody wants to get up in the middle of the night and watch us at 6:10, they can do that. But we'll be on early.
Only this Monday, because I have another commitment.
Yeah, and I'll post that in my advanced promo. I'll post that we're on early and what the situation is. So you'll see me with drinking even more coffee than I do at 8 o'clock.
Blame me for the one off on Monday for the earlier time.
You're right. So anyway, even though I like Texas, I am not taking them this week in my picks here. I might bet them
Is Arch playing?
Arch is still questionable, but I think he'll play. I do think he'll play. The teams I'm taking in our competition, I like Georgia Tech. Brent Key's done a great job. The best player in the country nobody talks about is Haynes King, the quarterback for Georgia Tech. He's a tremendous player. Might even start getting a little Heisman chatter after another big game this week. I think they go to North Carolina State and cover the 5.5. I mentioned Army and Jeff Monken. We got a military playoff this week, part of the round robin for the Commander-in-Chief trophy. Army plays Air Force at Air Force, but Air Force, the last couple of years under Calhoun, they have not been as good as they've been. He's a really good coach, and they've had a good run there, but the last 2 years have been a little rough. I'm going to lay Army. I'm going to lay the 1.5 with Army on the road to beat Air Force. And my dog, I talked about this game. Game day will be there. Cincinnati is playing some great football. They're on a great roll. Utah, tough at home. They lost at home to the best two teams they played, and this team may be just as good as Texas Tech and BYU in that Big 12. I like Cincinnati plus 10.5. They're going to cover, and I think they can win this. They might win this game in Utah. So that's my dog. And we got some other good games to watch. Jack, do you want any boxing tidbit to throw out before we wrap it up here quick?
Yeah, disturbing news. Gervonta Davis, lightweight boxer, champion, was supposed to fight Jake Paul. Is supposed to fight Jake Paul in the middle of, in a couple of weeks' time. We don't know how real that's going to be. Supposedly it is. There's a big weight differential. He got in trouble with the law again, supposedly a domestic incident with a woman accusing him of certain things. And he's been under house arrest before. He's had problems in the past. But this is just an accusation right now. Let's point it out. It's an accusation right now, but you hope it's not true. And knowing Tank Davis's background, incidents that happened before, it's understood that there'd be suspicion that he maybe, was involved in a way he maybe shouldn't have been. But then again, we don't know that. It could just be an accusation. So until more comes out, we'll see. And we don't know whether his fight's going to get canceled against Jake Paul or not. We're not sure whether that's a fight or an exhibition because of the weight disparity. Let's
hope that's all it is. And you can catch all the boxing news and stay up to date with Jack and Frank on Glove Fist on Mondays at 7 p.m. Guys, we'll see Jack tomorrow on the debate show as well at 8 a.m. Unless you're starting that show at 3 a.m. or something tomorrow, but I assume it's at 8 o'clock. And Jack and I will see you Sunday morning with the big football show, and I've got the Sunday Stream of Consciousness 9 o'clock a.m. after that. That's all Eastern times, by the way. Jack, great show. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the football. Packed Phil and the World Series tonight, by the way. We had a great weekend of sports again this weekend. Going to be a lot of fun. I will be enjoying it. I know you will too. Thanks, Jack. Thank you, everybody, for commenting.
Thank you.
And we'll see you on the way out. Bye-bye.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, I'm going as you.
I'm going to myself.